When I first went to America, I was fascinated by how important work was. And I came back after about a year and a half, and I remember getting on a tube with the Evening Standard, and there was a piece in it by a J.R. Yeah, one of the great philosophers. Yes, the logical Posey. I still remember that what he was saying was that the first people who went off to America, New England with the Puritans, and when they sort of sat down and said, well, what could we do, said, well, should we have a dance? No, we can't do that. No theater. And what else could we played cards? No, that's not. Out. So in the end, the only thing they could really do was work, and I still see a very strong Puritan streak in America between good and bad. I mean, I don't like smoking, and I'd rather it didn't, but the savagery with which the non-smokers will persecute the smokers is just stupid. Yeah. So what is there? Anything there, and that with what were we talking about with work? I mean, in fact, can't we just play cricket or read would be wonderful? The trouble is I personally have been poisoned by the work ethic and I'm addicted to it. I have above my desk a quotation from Noel Coward, which is work is more fun than fun, and I've been very lucky to find that. So and I if I have a day off because you're doing something that is enjoyable, really enjoyable. I mean, there's two, three types of work. There's work you hate, yeah, and then there's work you love, and then there's work where you like bits and don't like other bits, and so you try to do as much of the things you like and as little of the things you don't like, but it's all like that. But if you love your work, why would you want to stop exactly? If you can, presumably the new problem as well, what do you count as work? Exactly what I count as work other. A lot of people would say how fabulous that I'm going to retire, or how fabulous I'm no longer working. I can garden. I'd rather eat my own legs than dig and then fork and be a Monty Don, but he obviously enjoys it. And lots of people do, and they wouldn't like doing the things I do, writing and things as you know. Writing is agony. The people I feel sorry for are the businessmen because they really are motivated by money now. When you give them all the money that they could have earned if they worked hard, they're going to be in a terrible position. You talking about A.J. Ayer is very interesting because in philosophy, he and his fellow Vienna School, the scientist types basically felt that ethics as a branch of philosophy had died, was no longer particularly interesting. It was you teach it in universities, and things, but then biotechnology, as well as the the internet and other things have meant now that people can leave university with a MERS or a doctorate in ethics, and they'll get a six-figure opening salary at big corporations because ethics is at the heart of the problems that we're talking about. How do you decide what is an ethical artificial intelligence? How do you decide what is an ethical way to lay people off work? And to keep the corporations are studying this really seriously. They're trying to, I mean, they're has been a wave of firing in Silicon Valley lately, and some ethicists have gone. But I remember seeing a Berkeley University. You have to say that obviously the pronunciation is Berkeley. You know what a graduate is called? No, Berkeley presumably, but there was a philosophical quarterly from Berkeley magazine, and it just said at the top, philosophy no longer just a stylish route to poverty question mark. Suddenly it was becoming the hottest discipline in university philosophy, and it is exciting because there is so much to think about, and all of us are free do that. Are the Bill Gates is thinking about, he is a thoughtful man, I think, isn't he? But the ones who really spend all this money trying to get into space on their own rockets, well, they follow a branch of philosophy that is not very academically fashionable or admired, which is objectivism, which is the philosophy of Ayn Rand, the sort of libertarian philosophy of the Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, which are more popular now than in her own time. Peter Thiel, for example, who's a very powerful investor in all kinds of things, he's a great admirer of V. Rand, and that there's a new philosophy called long-termism, which sounds rather admirable. We always thought bad thing about politics is so short-term, but this is a totally different thing. This regards the future of humanity in hundreds or if not thousands of years is the most important thing we can think about. And a few pandemics and diseases and climate change are pricks in the long history. After all, the Ice Age wiped most of us out, but it gave a small car drive surviving humans the chance to become our ancestors, and they think very hard about that. And there's a lot of paranoid fear that's why Musk and Bezos and people are wanting to go to Mars. They know the Earth is absolutely, because the image I have is we are children playing on the beach. Yes, making sand castles with our back to the sea, and on the sea various currents are combining. They are, for example, bioaugmentation, brain-machine interfacing, which is something Elon Musk is doing, where you interface with a computer and a computer with you, so it reads your thoughts and you can control it with your mind. If you like robotics itself, quantum computing, and artificial intelligence of different kinds, new materials, nanomaterials, and so on, all of these technologies which are transformative on their own, not to mention genomics and gene editing, are like separate swells in the ocean that are combining to make a gigantic tsunami. And as I say, we're playing on the beach, wondering about little things, like this particular strike, or what names we call ourselves, what our identities are. All of these tiny little issues that we are obsessed. What's the tsunami? The tsunami is the combination, the confluence of all these technologies all changing each other. So you mean life will be transformed in a way we can't begin to guess out? Yes.